Welcome to Currently, The Conversation. I'm Christal Frost, and today we're exploring the incredible connection between humans and horses and how that relationship can lead to profound healing. I'm joined by two amazing women from Peace Ranch in Traverse City, founder Jackie Kaschel and executive director Kim Walton. And Peace Ranch has been a pioneer in equine-assisted mental health and trauma recovery since 2009, offering therapy, customized trauma trainings, and experiential retreats that are designed to help people heal when words are not enough. Jackie and Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Jackie, you and I go way back.
Yep.
And I have just been such a fan of your work and of you and of your story and your commitment to helping people heal for so long. I was kind of surprised to find out that we have a new executive director, Kim Walton. So founder and executive director working together. Wow, this is fantastic. We're going to start with you, Jackie, to talk a little bit about that. Peace Ranch started back in 2009. And that was long before I think a lot of people had even heard of equine-assisted therapy. Now it feels like it's pretty well known. Mm-hmm. But what inspired you? How did you get to that point in the first place that you decided to take the leap and move into that space?
Well, I think it's like a lot of things. It started out of a need. Mm-hmm. So my husband and I had the privilege of adopting a group of little girls. And their only happy memory was horses. So we moved to Hoosier Valley and we got horses. And horses were a happy thing from my struggling childhood as well. So we got horses. And one of the things I noticed, my background is as a therapist and also my husband. And so one of the things that I noticed was that they had a really hard time with self-management. They were just all over the place. Mm. But, to be around a horse, you can't be yelling, you can't be, doing a bunch of stuff. You kind of have to be a little quiet and manage yourself. And I noticed that their desire to be with the horses and interact with the horses helped them to develop those skills. Mm. And so that was like I wonder if anybody's ever used this in a clinical model. And it was a brand new thing, EGALA. The Equine-Assisted Growth and Learning Association. So when I got to a point where I was starting to think, I think I might go back to work, I thought, wonder if I could do this.
Yeah.
And so that's how it got started.
And, you mentioned about the behavior. It's almost intrinsic, do you think, when you're around a horse, that you just sort of instinctually calm a bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And of course, back then, it was just when we would say that, people thought we were nuts, but it was true. And of course, now we have all kinds of science that demonstrates that the horse's nervous system is much larger than ours.
Yeah.
And so when we get near the horse, our systems kind of sync up.
Oh.
And so if we're dysregulated, in other words, if our heart rate is higher and we have a level of agitation, the size of the horse and its nervous system helps our nervous system to regulate.
So, that's just fascinating to me.
I know,
in
right?
a second, I'm going, wow, because in the limited time that I've spent around horses, I can really feel that. And one thing that you've said in the past, Jackie, is that horses meet people exactly where they are, right? They're just wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in your day, in your mood, horses are going to meet you there. And what does that look like in practice?
Well, it looks a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. For instance, we have a donkey. And so we work with a lot of kids. And sometimes the donkey will walk in with the kid. And the donkey will come over and she'll put her head down and her eyes get quiet and she's very relaxed and the kid goes over and pets and hugs or, whatever. Other times we walk in, another 6-year-old kid or something, and the donkey goes, she puts up her head, she goes, and she turns and runs the other way. And it's not a like a value judgment, like
Sure.
they like this one and not another one. Really, so horses are prey animals. We're going to talk more about this, I think. But they are wired to read their environment because their life depends on it. And so if we come in, like you can have one child, it's not they're smiling or doing anything demonstrative, but in their heart rate and everything else, the donkey reads the heart rate. If the heart rate is high and there's a lot of energy there, the donkey takes off.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that what you just talked about, what you just mentioned there is exactly what people deal with sometimes, when they're in trauma, So
Exactly.
and I know we're going to talk more about that. I know we are. I feel like we definitely have to talk to Kim at this point too. Kim, you stepped into your role as the executive director just this summer. You have a fascinating background. Can I just say, wow, North Carolina farms and federal land management, and you had a wild horse program. I mean, you have lived it. You've breathed both horses and land stewardship. And what drew you to Peace Ranch at this stage in your journey?
Well, to be quite honest, I have not really been connected with the Traverse City community before. I haven't worked here before. We visited when I was a child, and that was about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the community, but my daughter is the CEO of another child advocacy center, and she knew about Peace Ranch. They had sent children to Peace Ranch, and she said, "Hey, Mom, there's this job you need to apply for." So I said, "Okay," and that's what I did. And I really felt like I did some research before I took it or looked into it, and I felt like it really matched my skills and that I could offer Peace Ranch some real direction through this transition.
Yeah.
When the board was talking to me, they said, it's a transition and it's going to be hard and it's going to be, stressful. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I've been through a lot of transitions, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. So, it just seemed like a good match.
Well, and speaking of a transition, I mean, this has been, as you point out, creating this farm, this lifestyle was a big part of your family. It was a big part of your identity. How does it feel for you to start to pass that torch?
Well, it feels okay.
Yeah.
In 2020, when we were all sitting around, right, wondering what to do with our lives, my husband and I came up with a 10-year succession plan. And we thought, there's so much to this. There are so many moving parts. And how, what can we do so that it can be successful? Because we both have a lot invested in the ranch and what's happening at the ranch. And we believed it could go on beyond us. And so the first thing that we planned to do, we lived in the center of the property. And so we decided, well, you can't not be founder-centered if the founder is still living here.
In the center.
That's right. So we planned to find a way to raise money so that we couldn't just move somewhere else.
Right.
So we raised money so the organization could purchase the property, which was the center of the ranch anyway, right, and the house and the barn and all that other stuff, and that happened. We were able to do that within a year, and we moved out, and we moved up the hill to the property that we bought that we planned to move up. We said when the kids were little, oh yeah, when we retire, we'll move up there. So anyway, we did that. We hired a caretaker. That was the next piece, and the next plan was to hire an executive director, and here she is. So we're right on track.
Yes, you are on. I mean, you're doing really well.
We are.
Man, can you help me with my 10-year
Sure.
plan? So, Kim, as you've settled into your new role, though, and I know it's only been a few months, but what so far has stood out most about Peace Ranch? I mean, what can you say about the staff or the community or even just working with the horses themselves?
Well, I will tell you, Peace Ranch, as you just stated, has been the baby of Jackie and Paul. And they have done such an amazing job of setting a vision and then inviting others in the community to share it with them. And they have developed an incredible network of staff, volunteers, donors, other community agencies, and they were all needed to help make this vision work. So, a working process for some of the most vulnerable people in our area. And I can't imagine the long hours, blood, sweat, and tears. Actually, I can kind of, sort of, but not really. I get it a little bit, to make this all happen. So I'm just in awe of their efforts. I really, really am. And what an incredible place it turned into.
And I mean, I have to say, too, that, the community has really embraced this. I really feel strongly about that. And in the past 16 years, the support you've received from the community to help Peace Ranch grow, I think importantly and rightfully, the community sees this as the gem it is, which is so important. I want to kind of move into talking about how equine-assisted therapy works. And for listeners who might not be familiar, I think people think about therapy and they might have their own feelings about like, oh, that's, when you lay down on the couch and someone is talking to you or making notes, or, maybe there's other kinds of therapy, not just talk therapy that you're used to. But can you explain how equine-assisted therapy actually works and what happens when someone comes to Peace Ranch for a session?
I thought I would just describe exactly what happens.
Yes.
I think that would be good. So when people come to Peace Ranch, we have a sensory trail, and it goes all around one of our pastures. And the sensory trail, we use this as a way to assess where a person is. This is the best way that we've found to do that. So we don't ask a lot of hard questions, and we don't read a lot of files. We actually... we meet. It's not that we don't have the files, but we go for a walk, and each session is staffed by 2 people, a licensed therapist and an equally qualified equine professional. And so the 3 of us go for a walk. And while we're walking, over the years, Jan and I have learned to pay attention to the pace. Is it rhythmic? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it straight? The other thing is we don't talk very much. And so are there a lot of words? Because one of the things that we've learned is that anxiety can be expressed with lots and lots of words. So there are all kinds of things that we've come to learn about people just by going for a walk. And we have 7 stops on the trail. And they're all sensory stops. So one of them is a breathing stop, and we do it funny. And I'm going to sort of show you, sort of. But so we have 3 parts of it. First, the arms go up. We do the breath in through the nose, right? And when we have our hands up, this is one of the ways that we tell the brain that everything is safe. Okay. The next thing that happens, and I can't do it because I'm sitting here, is we do what's called a forward fold. And as we do the forward fold, which is where your hands go all the way down to your feet, we go. So the 3 things we're doing is we're doing the breath, the in, and the out,
like the forward
with the arms up. The blowing out releases the jaw, and the forward fold tells the body to relax. So we're doing relaxation things. And one of the reasons that we do this is because this is a homework exercise that we ask people to do at home. So everything on this 7-stop trail is something that people can do at home. And we practice it with them every time they come until they feel comfortable doing it on their own at home.
So that's like the first thing you do.
It's the very first thing we do.
Oh, that is so delightful. I mean, as someone who has anxiety, sometimes the most anxiety inducing event is actually having to fill out the paperwork that you have to do before you even see someone. And you can just go, okay, I can't do it. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. But to just like be able to walk, take a walk, start to learn how to breathe, and you can just kind of, look and listen, right? I mean, you're like totally in it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Fortunately, now we can do all that paperwork stuff can be done before they ever even come. And so that's perfect. So that's the first thing that we do. The next thing that we do is, of course, we've walked all the way around the pasture. And it's just the 5 senses, seeing, hearing, so forth. So we go all the way around and we come to the gate. The next thing we do is we teach the person how to use the gate. Because we want people, believe it or not, particularly with kids, we've had situations where when we went in, it caused a panic attack. And so we teach everybody how to get in and how to get out. And that way they're never trapped.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
Yeah.
And then the third thing we do is we set up kind of our model of therapy. And I brought you one of these.
Ooh.
So
Level.
it's a level. This is yours to keep, and this is the spiel. So we don't use we call it the F word. We don't talk about feelings very much. What we want to do, because it can feel very invasive for people, and so what we do is we introduce this as a concept, and we say, we all have stuff going on in here, right? And so as we go in, and so we open the gate, we're standing there. As you go into the pasture here, what we want you to do is find the place where your bubble is between the lines. There's no expectation here. You don't have to sit, you don't have to touch the horses, you don't have to do anything, but just find the place where your bubble is between the line. And I think a lot of our therapy is built on this concept because in society now, we are always being pushed to go where we're not comfortable.
Yeah.
And in a situation where you have experienced any kind of abuse is about pushing you to a place that you don't want to go or taking something that you don't want to give. And so this is about rebuilding that inner person.
Wow. And it's a cool level.
Yes, it is. And
so cool.
We have them. These don't happen to have them, but we have them with magnets. And people put them on their refrigerators.
I do.
Oh, you have the one with the magnet. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
And people tell us stories. We had a veteran that took it home and put it on his refrigerator, and he told his son about it. And one day he was having a rough day, and his son brought him and he brought him the level, and he went like that. and they laughed.
Oh.
And he said, "You're right. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And it was a great way to communicate.
Kind of cut through that tension.
Yes, yeah.
You mentioned something about not wanting to, use the F word, talking about those feelings. That's not something I've really thought about, but, the minute you said it, just how difficult it can be to even try to describe how it is, what it is that you might be experiencing, what you might be feeling, because it's so complex, So, using a level is so much better and finding a place where you're comfortable. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about too, and, trauma living in the body is something that we all know about too. There have been numerous books and studies that were published, lots of, ACEs studies that we've talked about before, adverse childhood experiences, and how we know that the body keeps a score. That's another great book about, how it lives there and that horses can really help people reconnect with that safety and trust. And it's funny because I think at first glance you kind of go, okay, well, how? But I've seen this happen. It is truly remarkable from a trauma-informed perspective. Can you just talk a little bit about what that looks like how someone truly, who has experienced trauma can reconnect and find that trust?
It is different for every single person. And it's really been an amazing experience to see how broad that really is.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I have to tell you, I'm just a huge fan of this, of this program. And, Kim, you've run therapeutic riding programs in the past, so similar things. How does the approach at Peace Ranch differ and maybe complement what you've done in the past?
So therapeutic riding is dealing with physical immobilities or tightness or, more actual physical. And, the horse's movement at a walk mimics a healthy person's walk.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually helps train the body that for somebody that's in a wheelchair or somebody that, uses a crutch and can't walk evenly. It helps train their body to be more productive, more efficient, and more, and less not traumatized. I don't want to use that word there, but it just helps heal those muscle memories.
Right. Okay.
But I will say, and also we do a lot of coordination. It's if you have reins, everybody holds their reins. If they pull way up, they'll lose their balance. So we do this, pull one rein through 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a horse that when I counted to 3, she stopped because I had to stop counting and do it with my fingers because she was gaming the system.
She learned.
She learned faster than some of the kids. But I will say that you never have physical difficulties without some other difficulties, attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so dissimilar from Peace Ranch where the kids would, brush the horses, learn to get on the horses. They'd have to, it's a big animal.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we had mounting ramps and, where we'd wheel up a wheelchair or help somebody get on, it's still a long way from the ground. And they would have to just sit there and breathe and relax, which is not so different what Jackie's doing.
Right.
So, yes, it was more physical goal, but the mental part of it went right along with it. And again, the nervous system, the movement.
It's all sort of the same.
It's all sort of the same. And if you ask any 14-year-old horse girl, it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just feel better around a horse.
You just feel better.
You just feel better around a horse.
That's one thing I have to ask before we, take a quick break. For people who might be skeptical, for someone who thinks, okay, it's just being around horses, like how could that possibly help my anxiety and my grief? And I'm going to ask you this knowing that it does. So I feel like I'm just going to play that role for a second. What do you say to someone who says that?
What would I say just to somebody who doesn't think that it works?
Says, I don't know that would work. That doesn't seem like it would work. Do you say try it?
I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
It's a great question, but we have all kinds of science that explains now why it does work.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think, our experience having done this before we had the science, it was not an easy sell.
Mm-hmm.
But we had connection with Child and Family Services because we had adopted through them, and they saw what happened with our kids, I think. And so we had that opportunity. And it was really, in fact, I think what's opened all of the doors in Traverse City, including 13th District Court and DHHS and everybody else, is that they've tried everything else with the kids that we see. It just doesn't work. When they come to Peace Ranch, it works.
Yeah.
Things change.
It's just, it works.
It works.
It works. We're going to take a quick break right now to mention one of our key supporters. And one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience right now is through storytelling. And a great way to do that is with a podcast. And if you've ever thought, I'd love to have a podcast, but I have no idea where to start, that's where Pancake Boy Productions comes in. Pancake Boy Productions is a full-service podcast studio right here in Northern Michigan. They make it incredibly easy to launch a show that looks and sounds professional without you having to learn all the tech or spend hours editing. You just show up, have the conversation, and they handle the rest. Whether you're a business, a nonprofit, or a community organization, or just someone who wants to say something, Pancake Boy can help you tell your story. highlight your mission, share expert insights, or connect more deeply with your customers. They take care of recording, editing, branding, distribution, everything you need to get your podcast out into the world. Like this show you're enjoying right now. So if you've got a message that you think is worth sharing or a story worth telling, reach out to Pancake Boy Productions and let's create something incredible together. That's pancakeboyproductions.biz. All right, welcome back to our conversation with Peace Ranch. And, I want to kind of move into talking about the growth, the evolution. Peace Ranch has always been about healing and education. And, you're talking about doing more training. Can you tell us a little bit more about that vision and who it will serve?
Well, we have, from what I've gathered and seen in my short time there, Peace Ranch has always done education along with one-on-one therapy sessions, because you can't just treat a child. You really have to deal with the agency the child works with, the parents, the grandparents, whoever might be in that child's life. Just doing this in a corner is not going to help the child's grow. So they learned it here, but if they don't do it anywhere else, it doesn't help.
Such a good point.
So they've always done this training. We would like to do more of it. We see that they had the Blair Elementary School there, and they had the teachers learning how to help deal with these when they had problems with students or reactions that they weren't quite sure how to deal with. The days of just sending a kid down to the principal's office, that just didn't work. I won't say we all went to the principal's office, but quite a few of us did, and that didn't seem to help. So, this is a better way. It gives them some tools. They worked with Father Fred, another organization who feed. And they have people in the food lines who are experiencing could have all kinds of problems, and for some reason, somebody yelled at them outside the door or something, and they react. And how do you handle that so that this person is okay, the person serving them is okay, and everybody else in the room is okay?
Yeah, to find that regulation again.
Yeah, find that regulation.
To get back, in sync,
So I really, really like the training part of Peace Ranch. I think the one-on-one therapy is excellent. There's no doubt about it. But this is a whole nother step that we could really build on. And we'd like to get a classroom. We're trying to get a classroom built because we don't really have any good indoor space to do this. And it is northern Michigan, and we do have a little bit of weather up here.
So just a little.
So it limits our timing and our, it's not very efficient to just try to do everything in the summer, spring, and fall. And we want to do more in the winter when school's in session and different organizations and agencies are having retreats and doing staff training. We can just help so much there. And that's the one thing I am really working at trying to lead forward on.
That's fantastic. In my day job, I work with individuals. I have a staff of wonderful individuals who work with people who are returning home after incarceration. And there's a lot of trauma there. And there's a lot of there's a lot of trying to understand how to get back into the society. And sometimes people who haven't experienced it don't understand that when you walk back out the prison gate, you're not just back to who you used to be 5 years ago.
Right.
And so learning how to help them regulate, and then you yourself, when maybe you are the caseworker for something like this, understanding how to regulate your own emotions and your own expectations. I mean, as you pointed out, Kim, if you're not teaching the community that this child or this, individual is going to be around about how this person is experiencing life right now and what you can do to support that, then it's probably going to have some limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing. And it kind of gets us deeper into talking about trauma. And and I do want to talk a little more deeply about trauma, because that's really at the heart of Peace Ranch's mission is talking about trauma. And trauma shows up differently in people's lives. I just mentioned people who maybe are experiencing, trauma of reentering after incarceration, but about 95% of the time, those folks have already experienced trauma in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about maybe a complex, layered trauma. You spoke about veterans, and that is a very unique trauma that veterans might have experienced. And Kim, you mentioned children, and children who've been abused. That is a different trauma. So, what are some of the ways that trauma does show up in people's lives? Like how does that feel? What does it look like?
Well, it can show up all different kinds of ways. In young children, it would be just more in mood dysregulation. So fear, anger. So when we get, the thing about trauma, I do want to say it's a little bit of a pet peeve, but it's being used very broadly now.
Yeah, I know.
Trauma means having been in a situation where your life was threatened or you felt like your life was threatened. So it's not just like everything that happens that's bad in the world. It's significant something, whether it's anger or sometimes it's just anger. For kids, it can just be the level of anger or the level of neglect. And
I love that you talk about that, because that is also a pet peeve of mine. Because I want people to understand that the trauma response is happening to your body.
yes,
Your brain and your body connection, you believe in that moment that you are in danger.
yes.
And that can show up in all sorts of different ways. But the way that it's been used to describe, having a bad day is not the same. And it really does discount so many of the experiences that clients at Peace Ranch are dealing with, I would say.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're talking about that, though, that, trauma, the way trauma can show up with children. And I think we're, or with adults or with different people who have experienced it. Sometimes I think you don't even realize that you are still dealing with some trauma, right?
Yes.
You might go, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm all over that. But then something happens and you go, whoa.
Well,
Yeah.
it gets recorded in our bodies in an interesting way. I mean, certainly if you've been through a traumatic event, you might remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it might be stored in a memory and you might be able to think about it. It's likely that if it was really severe, that you have holes in how you remember it. And if you were quite young, you may not have conscious memory of it. In other words, you may not remember the story, but your body remembers it. And the way that we know that the body remembers it is because the body stores the information that it connects with the pain or the fear, right? And so it could be the tone of voice. When the voice got to this tone, this happened, right? And so
it's that.
we remember what happened before what happened.
Wow.
Okay? That's what happens in our bodies, because our bodies are created and wired to survive, right? And so we remember what happened before what happened. And what happens is, like for kids, they'll have a reaction when they perceive what happened before what happened is happening. So a tone, a particular movement, a fast movement, a loud movement, anything like that could be it.
Yeah.
So then that makes it scary. And if we switch to talking about veterans, right, that's more, people are more familiar with that with veterans, right? Guy comes back from the war, the car backfires, the guy is, on the ground, right?
Yep.
Same thing in kids, only he has more of an understanding of what he's doing there.
Right.
The child doesn't have an understanding and may not have any memory, especially if it's still happening when they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Or even the adult that maybe doesn't have a lot of connection to the trauma, that responds like that and
Right.
suddenly says, what happened to me?
Exactly.
You know, I think that's a really important question too when we're talking about this. That, and I've learned this from you and a friend that we share, Denise. And I would say that it's not asking what's wrong with you; it's what's asking what happened, and that's a lot of what Peace Ranch really discovers is what happened, what's your story, that kind of thing. You know, I want to kind of move to asking both of you for, you know, for people who have experienced trauma or who love someone who has, which I think is probably most of us, you know, realistically, we probably know someone who has experienced some trauma. What do you want them to know about the beginning of either their own healing journey or about supporting someone who's on a healing journey? How about you, Kim? Anything?
Well, I think it's so hard to step back from a relationship, whether it's parent-child or husband-wife or friend to friend, and, you know, separate the regular, we're going to go out and do this or have dinner or whatever, and then turning into something that we would not like to see, you know? And I think sometimes we forget that there was a reason that those things happen. Like you said, the before, or, you know, some just flashback or something. And, or sometimes people just, their personality just kind of changes after trauma and they become harder or they become more belligerent or they drink too much. You know, any of those things. And it sometimes when you're close to them, it is really hard to separate out, you know, is Saturday night we're having a good time, or are you really reacting to your life by drinking too much, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point too, because if you really think about it, even that person that maybe hasn't been connected to their childhood trauma, and so they're in their in some cases, maybe their 40s or their 50s, and they're going, wow, why did I just react to that? They may have been, you know, trying to cope in different ways that have been damaging for years, right? That they really didn't understand until they are actually able to go, oh, wait, it's trauma, you know? Yeah, yeah. What about you, Jackie? Is there anything that you would say to someone who is at the beginning of their healing journey, or maybe someone who is a family member, a friend who is supporting someone?
Yeah. Well, what it made me think of was we work with a lot of foster and adoptive parents, and the behaviors that the child has, that, you know, it seems like naughty behavior.
Yeah.
And so you need to look at behavior through a different lens. And maybe what's needed at those times. And if you can find the holes and support in those areas, and that's really what happens at Peace Ranch. We, you know, like I said, it's very individual, and we're looking for those places that need support, and they show up. And once we start supporting those areas, and that allows for the healing, that's why there's the big change.
It's the big change.
Yep.
I do want to mention that you've said this before, Jackie, that horses live in the present moment. They're, you know, and we talked about this in the beginning of the conversation, that, you know, they are there. They're meeting you where you are, but they're also where they are, and it's present, and there's something so like deeply, you know, present about it. You know, you're not thinking about other things most of the time when you're in front of a horse. But how does that presence help those trauma survivors feel safe in their own bodies?
You know, it's very individual. Like we had one guy who was a Vietnam veteran, and he came home from the war and drank for a long time, and then he got sober, and then he was a recluse, and he started coming to Peace Ranch with our very first veterans group, and we had gotten a horse in at that time that was pretty feral. Her name is Callie. And this guy ended up really connecting with this feral horse.
Wow.
And so much so that he didn't have, I think they had cows when he was a kid, you know, but he ended up spending a lot of time with Callie. And what he said was, she trusted me, and that helped me to trust myself.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh, I'm sorry. The goosebumps are coming. Wow. Oh, yeah.
So that's his story.
Yeah.
And he ended up going from being a recluse, basically, to mayor pro tem in his town.
Wow.
I know, right?
That's amazing. What a journey.
I know.
Holy smokes. Oh my gosh. Like, wow. Well, I think that means we need to talk a little bit about that sort of faith, that trust that, that you have to have when you are starting that journey, and you learn to trust. Maybe it's through an animal like Callie. Maybe it's learning how to trust yourself because somebody else trusts you, Faith and community, though, seem really deeply woven into your story, Jackie. We've talked about this before. And from your family to the volunteers to the people you serve, how is faith showing up in the healing work at Peace Ranch?
Well, see, you're going to make me cry probably here.
Well, it's okay. You already made me cry, so.
Well, faith is the thing that turned my life around from being a heroin addict. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to me. And I think, so for my husband and I, that's a really important piece. We probably wouldn't have been thinking about adopting children if that wasn't important to us. Mm-hmm. And it happened out of a crisis in our life. And rather than just be done having kids, we decided to go ahead and adopt. And then raising our children with faith, because we believe that we all are intended for a purpose. Mm-hmm. We all have a purpose here on earth, and God eternally is looking for that purpose to be fulfilled in us. Mm-hmm. And as our kids grew up and this idea came about, our equine-assisted psychotherapy was offered at that time around 2009. It was still a brand new thing, but you could get it if you were an alcoholic or an addict and you went to a Betty Ford center or a high-end treatment center like the Bermuda Ranch or something. But our vision was to provide a premium service for the least of these so that people could get their lives back. And so the people that we've attracted, that's the heart of our vision. Right. The people that we've attracted as volunteer and so forth are mission-minded. Many of them do believe. Mm-hmm. And that's just how our whole organization has been built.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. How about you, Kim? You've lived in so many places. I mean, I'm just going to name like North Carolina, Wyoming, Nevada, Michigan, and you're here now back in northern Michigan. How does the northern Michigan landscape itself contribute to healing, do you think? Is there something about this environment that you think makes Peace Ranch special? I mean, we talked about the weather. There's a little bit of that. But it is a very special environment.
Well, to be perfectly honest, and this will probably make everybody on the podcast mad, but I miss the mountains from out North Carolina and out west. I'm really a mountain girl, even though I wasn't raised there. But nonetheless, any place where you can get quiet reflection and think, and the world can stop. You can leave your phone in the car. When I was in the Forest Service, and this was a fully clothed thing. It doesn't sound like it, but they talked a lot about, we had groups that wanted to do forest bathing. Mm-hmm. And it was an area where they wanted to go where they knew an ATV wasn't going to come through, or, somebody in a Jeep isn't going to come through. Not that people in ATVs and Jeeps can't use the National Forest, but that these people wanted quiet, reflective space. Mm-hmm. So anywhere you can find that, whether it be on the side of a mountain or in a Michigan woodlands, it is incredibly healing for, the big things or the little things, the bad day or the really bad
or the very bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned forest bathing, which is something that I definitely want to do. So please bring that back, Kim.
We have a lot of forest around us.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. That's another thing. When you think of 5 years ahead, I want to ask you both this. What is your shared vision for Peace Ranch, from the founder to the new executive director? What do you hope people will experience when they come to Peace Ranch? And I'm going to start with the founder.
I hope that we're still doing the same thing. I'd like to see us grow, and we're talking about that. We've been talking about it actually for a while, and now we're starting to implement that and see more groups. But the work that we do, I'd like to see it stay the same. I hope that it'll be something that's passed. We're training other people to do this. We're training people for our own team, but we also train people around the state and actually all over the Midwest. We've also helped other programs in Michigan get started, and so just keeping it very simple, really about the horses, and really focused on that neurosequential model, because that's the thing that works.
That's the special recipe, right?
That's
there.
it, yeah. Not some special gimmick that we have in addition, or something else that we're selling.
Yeah. And it all starts with that walk too. I love it. That's great. How about you? What do you think, Kim?
Well, Peace Ranch was pretty together when I got there, which I'm really thankful for, because I've walked into other situations that weren't together. So this is good. But it lends me, I'm still learning a lot. But my vision is to make it a little bit more efficient, possibly, and sustainable. I think that's what I can. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to go out there. I can help with the horses, but the clients aren't my thing. But if I can help, clean the dust bunnies out of the corners,
right,
and make it a little more efficient and a little more sustainable, so that, like Jackie says, it goes on. I'm not 25 either, and I'm not going to be there for 20 more years. So I have to make it so that if somebody walks in after Jackie or after me or after the next person, that they have a real strong framework to hang things on.
Yeah. And I mean, those are the best words you can say as an executive director, though, right? Like sustainability, efficiency, those are things that you need. You need those things. And what you're building is legacy. 16 years, hopefully another 16 years, and then beyond, right? Yeah. Well, I just want to say before we wrap up, I have to ask each of you, how do you keep the hope? Because let's be honest, you are in this beautiful place where healing is happening, but healing is messy, and healing can hurt sometimes. And people in their healing journey, you can see some and feel, even though I'm using that F word, some of the sadness and the frustration. And I know that can be really difficult. So what keeps you hopeful? What are the moments that remind you that this work matters?
Well, I mean, of course, the wins.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I specialize in working with really traumatized horses too. It's something I love to do. It's sort of a passion. It's crazy, but I love it. And when you're working with a horse that you can't touch or get near, you really focus on just the smallest changes. And I think that has carried over into my work with people. There doesn't have to be a big thing. You're just looking for the smallest changes. Well, this time, this didn't happen, or this did happen. And what I've found is that if you stay focused on what is happening instead of what's not happening, unless it was something negative,
yeah,
then you see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, that's lovely. How about you? How do you stay in this work?
Well, I'm kind of in it for the horses. I've had horses since I was 14.
You're that 14-year-old horse?
I am that. And I started before then, but I didn't own one till I was 14. And I have way too many horses. I call it my cocaine habit because it probably has cost me that much in finances. But, I just know how it feels. Okay. Before I knew that there was the stuff behind it, the science behind it, I knew how it felt. I knew, when I was a kid and I just ride all over town and I rode by myself and I would get into scrapes, but I had a horse to take care of, so I couldn't do anything too stupid, and I learned to be sensible, which, I'm not sure my parents could have taught me. I just know how that feeling works, and that anybody that comes to Peace Ranch, whether they heal there or not, they're going to come away better.
Yeah.
And, I think it's hardest on the staff. And, it's not just the people. We lose horses too.
Yeah.
And that's just soul crushing for part of our staff. And Jackie's been at this a long time. We had a bunch of older horses, and that's hard. It's hard. But I know what it can do, and I know how it feels, and I know people come away better.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm just a huge fan. As I said, I think that this is one of the most incredible programs that is offered in organizations in Northwest Michigan. I will stand by that. I have seen it personally, and I would encourage anyone who wants to learn more to go to peaceranchtc.com. You can figure out, what they're doing. You can volunteer. You can donate money, because sustainability is what's going to keep this around for years to come. But I would so much encourage you to do that. And Jackie Kaschel and Kim Walton from Peace Ranch, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It was a beautiful conversation. I'm so glad we were able to have it. And to our listeners, once again, if you'd like to learn more about Peace Ranch, visit peaceranchtc.com. Follow them on social media, and you can find information on volunteering, sponsoring a horse, or supporting their new efforts. I'm Christal Frost, and this has been Currently the Conversation. You can find us everywhere. You can watch full episodes on YouTube and on Facebook. Plus, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.